What's up, everyone? I've seen some videos about Dana White vehemently defending John Jones's number one pound for pound status this week, and I kind of wanted to give you guys my opinions on it because I think it is a little bit wacky for him to do that. A little bit wacky. I don't really get it, but there are some arguments. So let's get into it. So right here I have John Jones's resume, and I'm gonna be comparing it to Islam Makhachev because they're closer than you think. So let's start right here. Mauricio Shogun. That's when he won his belt. That is not a fantastic name to win a belt off of. I know all these guys are legends, but because they're big names in the past, people kind of overblow how good they are. Most of these guys on here, besides Gustafson, Belfort, DC, and you know, Jan, most of these guys are former middleweights. They're not great, not really good fighters. Jones wasn't really fighting, the best fighters ever, and the skill level at light heavyweight is a lot lower than lightweight. So, Jones's resume is a little bit, not even a little bit, it's very overrated. Here's another good win, Glover win. Um, but when we really get into pound for pound, we got to think about what that means. So, out of every fighter on the roster, I think it means who is the best. And now, when you think about the best, is it the best resume or the best skill? Pound for pound kind of suggests the best skill, right? Because you take away all, size, weight, just who is the best. Um, if you think pound for pound means resume, then John Jones is number one as long as he's in the UFC. It doesn't really matter. But if we're thinking about what it really does mean, um, he's not number one. He beat Cyril Gane. That was his only win in the last, let's see, 4 years. 4 years. He won one time at heavyweight against a guy who was not the champion, not undefeated. He wasn't even the best heavyweight when Gane is not the best heavyweight. He was not the best heavyweight. It was Pavlovich or Aspinall. It still is Aspinall or Pavlovich, one of those guys. Probably Aspinall because Aspinall beat him. So I think everybody agrees Aspinall's the best. But you know, he has one win in the past 4 years, and then we look at Islam Makhachev. So he just beat Poirier. That is an all-time win. Poirier is a top five lightweight of all time, be a top 25 fighter of all time. He's an all-time great. Um, Besides DC, there's not really a fighter of that level on Jones's resume. Like when you look at guys like, Rampage, I fucking love Rampage, dude. I don't think he's a top 25 fighter. Same with Rashad Evans. I love both those guys. I don't think they have the same resume or skill level as Dustin Poirier at all. I don't think you can really argue that. Um, and then Alexander Volkanovski. That is a better win than Daniel Cormier. And unlike Jones, Islam Makhachev has two definitive wins over him, right? Like Jones, one of the DC fights got overturned because he was a steroid cheat. Not the case with Makhachev. He beat Volk twice definitively. Volk is a top five fighter ever. He's the featherweight goat. If you don't think he is, you can go argue with the fucking wall. That's what you can do. And he started his title reign with Oliveira. All of these wins are much better than Jones' title wins, besides maybe DC. Um, and so when we look at pound for pound, Islam beat Oliveira, not even 2 years ago. It wasn't 2 full years. It was in 2022 in October. And he's went on to he beat Oliveira, maybe the second greatest lightweight ever. He beat Volkanovski, top five fighter ever, number one pound for pound at the time. Um, he beat Volk again, knocked him out. It was 10 days notice. Does kind of drop it off a little bit. That's still an insane achievement to knock out Volkanovski. Only one other guy has done that. And then Poirier. Poirier is an all-time great, top five lightweight ever. He was never a champ, but we all know reason he wasn't a champ is because the three champions during his time were basically unbeatable, besides Oliveira, and even Oliveira is an extremely tough matchup for him. So we all know Poirier is an all-time great. That was an amazing win for Makhachev. Um, so there's not really a whole lot of argument you can do for Jones being the pound for pound number one right now, unless we're just thinking about resume, which in that case, Volkanovski would be number two, Usman would be number three. You have Izzy on there. Some of these guys that are on the list would be really low. Strickland wouldn't be on the list. A lot of guys would not be on the list. Holloway would be higher than he is. So if we're gonna go with the whole resume thing, then we have to change the entire list, and that makes Jones number one. But if we're thinking about what pound for pound actually means, and we're thinking about recent history, like the last 4 or 5 years, um, Islam has a 10 times better resume, 100 times better. And I think his resume is not far off from Jones in the first place. Because if we look at some of these wins, um, Lyoto Machida, that's a good win, but the Chael Sonnen win, that's like a nothing win. Sonnen did not deserve a title shot. He's a middleweight. This is like a nothing win. Glover, great win. DC, great win. This got overturned. The second DC fight, he beat Gustafsson twice. That's good. Anthony Smith, that's a fucking nothing win. He lost to Reyes. That fight was a robbery. Thiago Santos, that's basically a nothing win. Santos is not a great fighter, especially now. That win has not aged well. Gan, that's a good win, top heavyweight. He wasn't even the best heavyweight when Jones beat him. It was for a vacant belt. It's kind of a Mickey Mouse belt, if we think about it, because there's an interim champ and Jones is refusing to fight him like a fucking pussy. But, you know, when we're really thinking about it, their resumes are extremely close. And here's what I think Makachev needs to do to become the GOAT. So he's not far off. I think you could argue that he's a top 10 fighter right now just because he defended his belt 3 times at lightweight. You know how hard that is? That is one of the best achievements ever. That's like defending your belt 5 times at light heavyweight. It's, you know, it's crazy. And he's beating all-time greats in his title run. And it's just insane. So what I think Makhachev needs to do, I think after this Poirier fight, I think he should come back in November against Arman Sarukian. I think that'd be an amazing fight, and I think that would be an amazing win for his legacy because Arman is like a nightmare matchup for him almost, in a sense, and Arman is one of the best, in terms of skill, he is just one of the best lightweights ever. He really is. He hasn't really beaten the guys to prove it yet, besides Oliveira, that was close. But Arman is just one of the best lightweights ever in terms of skill. He's super well-rounded, amazing grappling, great striking. So I think Islam beats Arman, takes a little bit of time off. Maybe he could fight Gamrot. If Gamrot gets a win over maybe Oliveira, he can beat Gamrot, so that way that'd be 5 title defenses for his lightweight belt. He can move up. He can beat Leon Edwards, who by that time probably will have beaten Bilal and maybe one other guy, like maybe Shavkat. And I think Islam has a solid chance to beat Bilal or Leon. Whoever wins that fight. I think Islam, if he does that and then he defends his welterweight belt one more time, I think you could really argue that he's the greatest of all time because of the quality of opponents. Like what Jones has, everybody acts like he's beaten all these, all-time greats, which he's definitely beaten some all-time greats, but a lot of the all-time greats they're talking about are old men, they're former middleweights. They were out of their prime when Jones fought them. They're old, they were not at the peak of their skill. Like Rampage, he was not at the, his peak when Jones fought him. And Jones was also a drug cheat, tested positive multiple times. And if he beats Stipe, let's be real, is that really a good win? I know Jones would like to think it is, but if we're thinking about it in our heads and we're not like Dana White and we're not just slurping off Jones completely, Stipe's not a great win. He's an old man. He got knocked out what is it, 4 years ago? 4 fucking years. He's gonna come back and fight Jones, probably get submitted in round two. Um, Not a great win. I mean, you can't beat an old man and then, expect to be called pound for pound number one after we have Makachev over here doing all this crazy legacy shit. Um, and it kind of pisses me off how much Dana White was just discrediting Makachev. Because Jones wasn't even brought up in the question that was asked. It was how does Islam stack up to the greatest lightweights? Which honestly, I think you could make an argument that he is the greatest lightweight of all time already. He tied Khabib's record, and he has two names on his resume that are better than the names Khabib had. But that's a conversation for another video. But yeah, it's just ridiculous this talk of Jones being number one, unless we are talking about resume. In that case, Jones has to be number one on the pound for pound list. That's the only way he can be number one. But like I said, you know, if we're doing that, then we got to change the list entirely. Like, let me pull something up real quick. Let's go to UFC.com. Let's just look at the pound for pound rankings. So here it is. So Islam 1, Jones 2, Edwards 3. You can see the list, guys. Um, so if we're looking at this list, if we're going resume, not just who's the best right now, then Jones would be number one. Look who's not on this list that was pound for pound a while ago. Kamaru Usman would 100% be on here. He'd be like number three. Volk would be number two out of all these active fighters on the roster. Um, Volk number two, Kamaru number three, Max Holloway maybe number four. You know, Oliveira number five, Adesanya number six. So if we're thinking about it like that, I mean, what are we even fucking doing? It's not a resume competition. It's not that. It's a who's the best right now. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video because Dana White was doing a whole lot of fucking yapping, a whole lot of talking, and nothing of substance came out of his fucking mouth. He likes to say all the time, and I think he has an erection when he says this shit. He likes to say, you know, put any two guys in a room and John Jones is walking out alive. So why don't we try that with the interim champion right now who's earned his title shot more than Stipe coming off a fucking loss? Why don't we try that? Let's see who comes out of the cage. Then we'll know. Because Jones has never fought somebody his size or bigger than him who also has huge finishing potential. He's never fought a matchup like that. Aspinall is young, he's fast, he's powerful, he's strong, he's well-rounded, he's great everywhere, and that's the real test, not an old firefighter. I love Stipe, but he's not in his prime anymore. That's a nothing fight. It's a whole big nothing burger of a fight. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the pound for pound rankings. I'll talk to y'all later.